a 5-step energy detox program from renowned energy healing expert Oliver Nino that removes the crippling blocks from your energetic field that stand between you and abundance, purpose, and happiness. Renowned energy healer and spiritual activation expert, Oliver Nino shares his 5-step energy reset that eliminates the toxins that hold you back from being in your healthiest state. In this book, Oliver explains how energetic blocks lodge themselves in your system as negative beliefs, emotions, and sometimes even physical conditions. Traumas, ancestral roots, or environmental factors create feelings of fear, guilt, anger, betrayal, uselessness, hurt, and inadequacy that can flow through you like dangerous, free radicals. These create walls in your energetic field, which can cause physical disease, relationship issues, feeling stuck, a lack of abundance, a lack of purpose, a lack of confidence, anxiety, depression, or a general feeling of unhappiness. Writes Oliver, I find that when you cleanse, or remove, the blocks that weigh people down using my healing techniques, it not only detoxes their energetic fields, thus, healing various aspects of wellness, but also allows them to tap into a higher power and activate their own gifts, so that they can pursue their purpose on Earth. Every one of us is naturally wired to clear our energy fields. Our souls arrived here in a clear, energetic state, and so it's possible to return to our natural way of being. From best-selling novelist T.C. Boyle, a satirical yet ultimately moving take on contemporary American life in the glare of climate change. Denied a dog, a baby, and even a faithful boyfriend, Kat decides that she needs a snake, a glistening, writhing creature that can be worn like jewelry, living jewelry. But when the budding social influencer finally gives into impulse, buying a Burmese python from a local pet shop, she sets in motion a chain of increasingly dire events that culminates in one of the most memorable denouements in recent fiction, one that ensnares her entire family, from her eco-obsessed parents, Ottilie and Frank, to her frat boy-turned-husband, Todd. But there's more than meets the eye in this compulsive family drama. Lurking beneath the banal facade of 21st-century California and Florida is a caricature of materialist American society that doubles as a prophetic warning about our planet's future. An eco-thriller with teeth, Boyle's Blue Skies is at once a tragicomic satire and a prescient novel that captures the absurdity and inexpressible sadness at the heart of everything. The discovery of a missing woman's bones force Ruth and Nelson to finally confront their feelings for each other as they desperately work to exonerate one of their own in this not-to-be-missed Ruth Galloway mystery from USA Today best-selling author Ellie Griffiths. When builders discover a human skeleton during a renovation of a cafe, they call in archaeologist Dr. Ruth Galloway, who is preoccupied with the threatened closure of her department and by her ever-complicated relationship with DCI Nelson. The bones turn out to be modern, the remains of Emily Pickering, a young archaeology student who went missing in 2002. Suspicion soon falls on Emily's Cambridge tutor and also on another archaeology enthusiast who was part of the group gathered the weekend before she disappeared, Ruth's friend Cathbad. As they investigate, Nelson and his team uncover a tangled web of relationships within the archaeology group and look for a link between them and the cafe where Emily's bones were found. Then, just when the team seem to be making progress, Cathbad disappears. The trail leads Ruth A to the Neolithic flint mines in Grimes Graves. The race is on, first to find Cathbad and then to exonerate him. But will Ruth and Nelson uncover the truth in time to save their friend? This engaging student-friendly book debunks major myths about studying and provides practical tips for how students can learn to study smarter, not harder. Cognitive science has revealed the hidden secrets of what really works for studying. Written by psychologists who are experts in the science of study habits, Study Like a Champ outlines clear steps students can use throughout their high school and college careers to plan, monitor, and evaluate their learning. Numerous examples and self-assessments will help students of all ages apply these strategies to their own unique situations to help them create and maintain habits that foster lifelong learning. Psychologists Regan A. R. Gurung and John Dunlosky are award-winning teachers and researchers who have spent years conducting studies on how students learn. Not only have they published a significant number of scientific peer-reviewed papers on the topic, but they have received national recognition as teachers. A breathtaking mystery of love, lies and a cold case come back to life, told with Morton's trademark intricacy and beauty. A. Adelaide Hills, Christmas Eve, 1959. At the end of a scorching hot day, beside a creek in the grounds of a grand and mysterious house, a local deliveryman makes a terrible discovery. A police investigation is called, and the small town of Tambilla becomes embroiled in one of the most shocking and perplexing murder cases in the history of South Australia. Many years later and thousands of miles away, Jess is a journalist in search of a story. Having lived and worked in London for nearly 2 decades, she now finds herself laid off from her full-time job and struggling to make ends meet. Until a phone call out of nowhere summons her back to Sydney, where her beloved grandmother, Nora, has suffered a fall and been raced to the hospital. At Nora's house, Jess discovers a true crime book that chronicles the police investigation into a long-buried event, the Turner family tragedy of Christmas Eve, 1959. It is only when Jess skims through the pages that she finds a shocking connection between her own family and this once infamous scandal, a murder mystery that has never been resolved satisfactorily. With the builder threat behind them, the time has finally come for Jason and his team to hit the road. Eager to get back to the adventuring has been longing for, Jason is excited to not be at the center of world-changing events. But before he goes, one last attempt to pull him into politics has him leaving Romaro's with a strong final impression. With new places to visit and new people to meet, the remnants of recent events have scarred the land and left lingering dangers behind. It's a busy time for adventurers willing and able to fight with monsters. Threats that once loomed in the background start coming to the fore, and the team prepares to join the fight. Their angelic new adversaries are patient, powerful, and remorseless, using such unconscionable strategies that mass slaughter is only the beginning. Jason is forced to confront that his growing power may give him more in common with his foes than his friends. While this opens a path to uncovering the methods and objectives of their enemies, it also brings him to their attention. To them, this makes him yet another tool to be used. But when conflict spills into epic battle, they'll be the latest to discover that challenging Jason Asano is a very bad idea. A former Rookie contributor and creator of the popular blog Effing Dykes investigates the disappearance of America's lesbian bars by visiting the last few in existence. Lesbian bars have always been treasured safe spaces for their customers, havens that provide not only a good time, a stiff drink, and an ideal place to debut a brand new septum piercing but a sense of belonging, a shelter from societal alienation and outright persecution. In 1987, there were 206 of them in America. Today, however, only a couple dozen lesbian bars are still open for business. How and why did this happen? What has been lost by such a decline? Has anything been gained? What, if any, are the downsides when marginalized communities become more accepted and mainstream? In Moby Dyke, Krista Burton attempts to answer these questions firsthand, venturing on an epic cross-country pilgrimage to the last few remaining dyke bars. Her journey includes taking in her first drag show since the onset of the pandemic at the Back Door in Bloomington, Indiana, tearing up over Western wear-clad patrons two-stepping to country music at Phoenix's Boycott Bar, knocking back sticky, neon green Jell-O shots while watching a Green Bay Packers game among a raucous crowd at Walker's Pint in Milwaukee, competing in dildo races at Houston's Pearl Bar, and, despite her deep-seated hatred of karaoke, a controversial opinion, she is aware. Joining a group serenade at Nashville's Lipstick Lounge and enjoying the dreaded pastime for the first time in her life. While Burton sets out on the excursion to assess the current state of lesbian bars, she also winds up examining her own personal journey, from coming out to her Mormon parents to recently marrying her husband, a trans man whose presence on part of the trip underscores the important conversation about who precisely is welcome in certain queer spaces, and how they and their occupants continue to evolve. Moby Dyke is an insightful and hilarious travelogue that celebrates the kind of community that can only be found in windowless rooms soundtracked by Britney Spears' heavy playlists and illuminated by overhead holiday lights no matter the time of year. In Unexpected, Dr. Jill Carnahan shares her story of facing life-altering illness, fighting for her health, and overcoming sickness using both science and faith so that others can learn to live their own transformative stories. Has there ever been a time in your life when you felt alone or unsure where to turn for answers? It may have come with the diagnosis of a life-threatening illness, loss of a job, a death of a loved one, or any trauma that threatened everything you knew to be true. In Unexpected, Finding Resilience Through Functional Medicine, Science, and Faith, Dr. Jill Carnahan introduces a new paradigm for listeners who are going through uncertain times. Dr. Jill's riveting and compassionate exploration of healing through functional medicine demonstrates how to replace darkness and fear with hope and find profound healing, unconditional love, and unexpected miracles in the process. Unexpected reveals practical advice that can be used for conditions like mold and biotoxin illness, cancer, autoimmune disease, Lyme disease, and more. Dr. Jill's raw and honest account of her own challenges facing breast cancer, living with autoimmunity, and mold toxicity, while working in a medical system that has little tolerance for stepping outside the lines, offers a new path of empowerment for taking control of your health and well-being. For the skeptic or the faithful, Unexpected is a valuable guide for living an extraordinary life of love and resilience. In Unearthing the Bible, Dr. Titus M. Kennedy presents 101 objects that provide compelling evidence for the historical reliability of Scripture from the dawn of civilization through the early church. Gathered from more than 50 museums, private collections, and archaeological sites, these pieces not only reinforce the reliability of the biblical narratives but also provide rich cultural insights into the ancient world. Using this guide, you can find context for your faith as you make your way through the Bible. Dr. Kennedy's detailed descriptions enable you to examine each piece of fascinating evidence for yourself. From the earliest tablets of creation to artifacts connected with the life and resurrection of Jesus, Unearthing the Bible shows you can be confident that there is an abundance of archaeological support for the history told in the Scriptures. Throughout history, philosophers have sought to define, understand, and delineate concepts important to human well-being. One such concept is knowledge. Many philosophers believe that absolute, certain knowledge is possible, that the physical world and ideas formulated about it could be given solid foundation unaffected by the varieties of mere opinion. Sextus Empiricus stands as an example of the skeptic school of thought whose members believed that knowledge was either unattainable or, if a genuine possibility, the conditions necessary to achieve it were next to impossible to satisfy. In other words, in the absence of complete knowledge, one must make do with the information provided by an imperfect world and conveyed to the mind through sense impressions that can often deceive us. Throughout his life, Sextus Empiricus entered into intellectual combat with those who confidently claimed to possess indubitable knowledge. For skeptics, the best one can hope to achieve is a reasonable suspension of judgment, remaining ever mindful that claims to knowledge require careful scrutiny, thoughtful analysis, and critical review if we are to prevent ourselves and others from plunging headlong into mistaken notions. In How to Be a Coffee Bean, best-selling co-authors of The Coffee Bean John Gordon and Damon West present 111 simple and effective strategies to help you lead a coffee bean lifestyle, one full of healthy habits, encouragement, and genuine happiness. From athletes to students and executives, countless individuals have been inspired by the coffee bean message. Now, How to Be a Coffee Bean teaches you how to put the coffee bean philosophy into action to help you create real and lasting change in your life. How to Be a Coffee Bean presents thought-provoking ideas to help you create positive change, including how to fuel your mind, body, and soul to energize yourself and others. How to make a difference in the lives of others every day. How to look for opportunities to be a messenger of hope and perseverance through your background, experiences, successes, and failures. Easy to implement, practical, proven, and highly effective, How to Be a Coffee Bean shows you how to put the powerful lessons from the coffee bean into practice. It's a must-listen for anyone looking to live their best life and impact and transform the people and environment around them. What if deconstructing your faith isn't a phase but a holy process? There's probably a really good reason you picked up this book. Are you desperate to be in relationship with family or friends who are questioning their faith? Are you experiencing your own deconstruction of faith? Here is your invitation to rethink everything you thought you knew. In this process, you'll learn why it's important to deconstruct, and how we are wired to do it. Define deconstruction and deconversion, what they really mean. Consider WWJD, what would Jesus deconstruct, and apply the FUSE method to deconstruct for yourself. Deconstruct faith, discover Jesus will help you to enter the mindset of a deconstructionist. A worldview with a high capacity for paradoxes. A mental space that outweighs your self-interest in being right. A tendency to see Christian beliefs as inseparable from Christian ethics. In doing so, you will find the original deconstructionist, Jesus, right beside you. Upon its first publication in 1846, Poor Folk was an immediate critical triumph. The influential critic Vissarion Belinsky wrote that the novel reveals secrets about life and character types in Russia of a kind never dreamt of by anyone else, and the unknown 25-year-old author was hailed as the new Gogol. Composed entirely of an exchange of letters between a middle-aged copy clerk and a young seamstress who live on opposite sides of a Petersburg tenement courtyard, the novel explores the emotional and psychological effects of a threatening urban environment on the psyches of poor people struggling to survive. Poor Folk is the natural beginning point for anyone who discovers Dostoevsky, and the present translation corrects numerous errors and inaccuracies of previous English-language editions. The novel occupies a position of particular interest in both the history of Russian literature and Dostoevsky's work as a whole. Several lines of development in Russian prose interest, sentimentalism, naturalism, the physiological sketch, and the phenomenon of Gogol, with whom Dostoevsky maintains a dialogue throughout the novel. Retirement. Downsizing. Selling your business. Children leaving the nest. Layoffs. A major health event. Losing a loved one. Important life transitions remind us of what once was, leaving large gaps of free time and less to look forward to in the future. Afterwork acknowledges these tectonic shifts and offers revealing insights, powerful disciplines, and practical applications to help you step forward into a new and remarkably fulfilling season regardless of how you've defined work. Afterwork is a healthy and hopeful approach to retirement, and it may be different than the conventional wisdom you've been sold. It's an honest discussion about the retirement lie we've bought into. A self-focused, uber-comfortable, and vacation-minded retirement is what we want. But such thinking is a down payment toward purposelessness. The truth is that you're more than the assets in your retirement account, you're a person with incredible talent and value, and you're more resourced than ever to leave your mark on the world. Practical, trustworthy, encouraging, and accessible, Afterwork explores 10 key disciplines that will steer you away from the destiny of disillusionment and open you to a life filled with confidence, joy, and peace. Purpose, calendar, movement, journaling, faith, connection, learning, awareness, generosity, and awe. Most retirement resources tell us, you've earned this, now here's how to make life all about you. Afterwork reveals the fallacy of viewing the coming years as nothing more than cashing in on the money you've squirreled away, hoping it doesn't run out before you die. Instead, experience greater satisfaction by living with an outward focus that can help you escape the retirement lie. For perspective on our own times and how we got here, it helps to listen to wise guides from other eras. In An Infinite Fountain of Light, the renowned American historian George Marston illuminates the landscape with wisdom from one such mentor, Jonathan Edwards. Drawing on his deep expertise on Edwards and American culture, Marston explains where Edwards stood within his historical context and sets forth key points of his complex thought. By also considering Benjamin Franklin and George Whitefield, two of Edwards's most influential contemporaries, Marston unpacks the competing cultural and religious impulses that have shaped our times. In contrast, Edwards offered us an exhilarating view of the centrality of God's beauty and love. Christians' love for God, he taught, can be the guiding love of our lives, opening us to transformative joy and orienting all our lesser loves. There is an infinite fullness of all possible good in God, a fullness of every perfection, of all excellency and beauty, and of infinite happiness, wrote Edwards. This infinite fountain of light should, diffusing its excellent fullness, pour forth light all around. With Marston's guidance, listeners will discover how Edwards's insights can renew our own vision of the divine, of creation, and of ourselves. Have you ever wondered what a fraction or percentage means and how they are related? Basic principles of fractions, decimals, and percentages and how to apply them to other forms of mathematics are explained through informative and engaging content in this new addition to the How Do series. The How Do series is a great introduction to various STEM topics, each presented in a format that encourages audiences to ask questions and guess the answers before exploring the science behind them. Emotions are confusing, frustrating, and scary, but they don't have to be. Everyone experiences emotions, some easy, some difficult. Dealing with them should be common sense, and yet it isn't. Even though emotions are not uncommon to the human experience, we lack the language to fully understand and express them. This failure to understand can often lead to frustration and broken relationships. In The Path to Wholeness, Dr. Mark Mayfield teaches listeners how to slow down and explore the way our emotions develop. He examines the toll unexpressed emotions take on an individual and highlights the importance of paying attention to them. Start your journey to emotional wholeness and be transformed. This book will challenge you to look inward at your own experience and your own history. Reflect on how these things have shaped, informed, and influenced you, your family, and your relationships. Dissect your current understanding of emotions, your emotional vocabulary, and your emotional responses, and follow practical and actionable steps to rethink and rework how you see and experience emotions. This introductory Hebrew course teaches you to understand key words and phrases in a progressively more advanced way as the sessions progress. Topics covered include commonly used words and phrases such as numbers, colors, greetings, questions, ordering food, and many other useful topics. Exercises and revisiting topics enable you to build skill and recall across a range of useful vocabulary. The course includes 6 sessions, starting out with introductions and answers to questions and then moving on to more sophisticated vocabulary and sentence construction. The final session of the course includes a complete review of all the material covered. This is an ideal way to learn Hebrew on the go, whether in the car, at the park, or while working out. You can learn at your own pace, and the sessions are designed to help you put into practice and remember what you learn. This course is a great way to start your journey towards learning the Hebrew language and rapidly building the skills to help you communicate in Israel and beyond. When we're standing at the gravesite, death gives little closure and leaves many questions unanswered. Despite the common claim that dying is just a natural part of life, people seem to avoid this unsettling subject more than ever. Yet the Bible doesn't shy away from the reality of death. God's Word has the answers we need to face the grave with confidence in our risen Redeemer. In this book, Dr. Guy Waters provides the Bible's answers to essential questions about death, dying, and what comes after this life. Here is balm for the grieving, counsel for caretakers, and guidance to help God's people rest in Christ's victory as we come to life's final battle. What sucks about waking up next to a dead girl on a Saturday is more than likely you're going to miss brunch. Just ask Sammy Jr., full-time house painter, part-time street artist, and, as of Saturday morning, prime suspect in a South Tampa homicide investigation. One more hassle he simply does not need. Then there's Penny Sullivan, a 15-year-old runaway who shows up in South Tampa that same Saturday morning with only her dead sister's street smarts, a whole lot of survivor's guilt, and a Canada backpack. Misunderstandings lead to Penny joining Sammy's crew, giving her a glimpse of the house painting business, where mind-numbing boredom inspires an acid-trip world of distraction, art, and healing relationships. A funny, fast-paced story about friendship and love, tragedy and redemption, and the always intriguing business of house painting. In 1890s Cardiff, reporter James McFarlane is intrigued by rumors of anesthesia frolics, at which gatherings the latest frontier in pain relief is demonstrated to influential guests. After he speaks to someone who attended several such frolics, and left with a hand and 2 fingers missing, James realizes that the events have a dark side. Contriving an invitation, he is astounded to find another guest also investigating. It's his old friend the Doctor. Reunited in mystery, the Doctor and James enter the murky underbelly of polite Cardiff society, where they uncover a shattering secret, and a monster lurking at its heart. The adventures continue for the New York Times best-selling How to Train Your Dragon series. The Dragon Rebellion has begun, bringing the Vikings' darkest hour upon them. Hiccup has become an outcast, but that won't stop him from going on the most harrowing and important quest of his life. He must find the dragon's jewel in order to save his people. But where should he begin? Don't miss Hiccup's most dangerous adventure yet. I had no idea that taking a temp job for the summer would send my life into a tailspin, but that's exactly what happened when I started working for Jace Ellis. One day I was his secretary, and the next I was sitting on his private plane, wearing an obnoxiously large engagement ring after being asked if I would pretend to be his fiancée for a week. I can admit that greed got the best of me. But the money he offered in exchange for my lie would help out not only me but also my mom tremendously. I just had no idea what I was actually getting myself into. I didn't think about the fact that we would be sharing a bed, that we would have to pretend to like each other. And I sure didn't know that I would be surrounded by his entire family at their annual family reunion. But if the guy wants a fiancé, I'm going to be the best one he'll ever have. I just hope I can remember that this isn't forever, it's for never. Point 1. Are you ready for romance, mystery, suspense, and the heartwarming power of family love? Then it is time to escape to Clearwater Beach and spend time with the adorable McCades. Fallon and Piper McCade have not spoken to each other in 15 years, much to the despair of their younger sister, Ashley. With their brother missing, their grandfather in recovery, and their family home under threat, the sisters are reunited. The McCade sisters are forced to put aside their differences to face their fears, unravel a mystery, and confront an unknown enemy. Stand with them as they battle their demons, fight to protect their family, their home, and salvage their late father's reputation. Journey with them as they get swept away on the high seas of adventure and intrigue while stumbling upon true love and finding the courage to open their hearts to it once again. Laugh, cry, and fall in love with the McCade family, broken by loss and tragedy and torn apart by secrets and betrayal. Get lost in a story about the powerful bonds of family and the magic healing ability of love which can drive a person to defeat their worst fears in the face of danger and adversity. Let the McCade family show you that love does conquer all and knows no age limit. This timeless love story spans generations as everyone deserves a happily ever after. Rebecca Halstead has never been a bridesmaid, but she can certainly relate to the expression always a bridesmaid, never a bride. As one of Chicago's top wedding planners, Rebecca has had a front row seat to countless ceremonies, yet her own walk down the aisle has started to feel like nothing more than a little girl's fantasy. She's the wallflower who, thanks to a clean bill of health from her oncologist, wants to live life to the fullest. If only she knew how. Brody Dixon hasn't heard the word no since he was drafted by the NFL. With cover model looks and an arm that's earned him 2 Super Bowl MVPs, Brody can have his pick of women. But as the next celebrity bachelor on American Sweetheart, both his agent and publicist want him to clean up his image before the show begins. If only he knew how. Then fate and an impulsive wager bring these two opposites together, and an unlikely alliance is formed. For the next 2 months, Brody will get a crash course in romance. In return, he agrees to help Rebecca break out of her carefully constructed shell. On paper, it makes perfect sense. But as they struggle to teach each other, Brody and Rebecca just might discover that falling in love is the most important lesson of all. Evelyn Manor was sure she'd lived the worst day of her life when she witnessed the death of her father and narrowly avoided a brutal attack. Now she's trapped in the kingdom ruled by her aunt and uncle who are desperate to keep her docile and marry her off. She's determined to utilize her combat training to escape Kembatus and flee to one of the neighboring kingdoms. Maddox Vicer doubted whether the goddess of fate would grant him a mate. Most Cova found theirs in their first 100 years. He'd long passed that mark. But on his first day in Kembatus, he catches Evelyn pickpocketing his dagger. In one moment, his world turns on its axis as he feels the bond snap into place, and Maddox knows that this woman with white hair and inhuman reflexes is his mate. The illusion of freedom that Evelyn holds dear is torn away on her new worst day when her aunt proposes an arrangement that she'd kill to escape. With time slipping through her fingers and danger closing in on all sides, she must do the one thing she fears most in order to save herself. She must trust a bloodthirsty immortal. Holiday gifts don't always come in expected packages, especially in the town of Hope's Crossing. No one has ever felt sorry for Genevieve Beaumont. After all, she has everything money can buy. That is, until she discovers her fiancé has been two-timing her and she's left with 2 choices. Marry the philanderer to please her controlling father or be disinherited and find a means to support herself. Genevieve's salvation appears in the most unlikely of prospects, Dylan Kane, a sexy, wounded war vet whose life is as messy as hers. Dylan's struggling to adjust after his time in Afghanistan, and the last thing he needs is a spoiled socialite learning about the real world for the first time. True, she may have unexpected depths and beauty to match. But he knows he could never be the man she needs, and she knows he could never be the man she thinks she wants. So why are they each hoping that a Christmas miracle will prove them both wrong? A Dangerous book introduces the indelible Irfan Mirza, a Desi Muslim with a dark past who is the ideal hero for a brand new series that puts a fresh spin on the thriller genre. After being temporarily unreachable for a deep deniability protection job for a Saudi prince, Irfan boots up his phone to discover a series of messages from his estranged wife, an academic who appears to have stumbled upon an incredibly dangerous secret that has landed her in police protection in Karachi, Pakistan, not a place you want to be jailed as an American accused of blasphemy. Irfan leaps into action only to realize that freeing his wife is more complex than a simple jailbreak, and soon both her life and his daughter's lie in the balance, as well as the fate of a potentially explosive secret. My career as a realtor bored me, except for when I got to test my handyman skills. So, when I finally saved enough, I purchased the most rundown manor I could find to scratch the itch. The problem? A few guests rest within its walls who pique my interest in the most delightful ways. And who are these new roommates? A sweet garden nymph, a mischievous Dullahan, and a mysterious goth demon. Turns out, the house isn't the only thing in need of a helping hand. But no quest is without its prize. I never imagined that buying a rundown mansion would grant me powers. The more I repair, the more the house rewards me. It started as strength and endurance, but the closer I get to the girls, the more magical I become. And my efforts to fix the house haven't gone unnoticed. When the HOA shows up, I think they're about to congratulate me on all my hard work. Instead, they gave me a to-do list a mile long. And we're not the only paranormals in this so-called normal suburb. Repairing the mansion is the challenge I craved, but a string of vandalisms keeps us on edge. Someone, or something, doesn't want us living here. It turns out Sunnyside won't be as peaceful as I expected. From New York Times best-selling author Caroline Kepnes comes the next novel in her hit U series, which follows Joe Goldberg to the hallowed halls of Harvard University, where he earns a coveted place in a writing fellowship. And leaves crimson in his wake. Joe Goldberg is ready for a change. Instead of selling books, he's writing them. And he's off to a good start. Glenn Shoddy, an acclaimed literary author, recognizes Joe's genius and invites him to join a tight-knit writing fellowship at Harvard. Finally, Joe will be in a place where talent matters more than pedigree. Where intellect is the great equalizer and anything is possible. Even happy endings. Or so he thinks, until he meets his already published, already distinguished peers, who all seem to be cut from the same privileged cloth. Thankfully, wonder enters the picture. They have so much in common. No college degrees, no pretensions, no stories from prep school or grad school. Just a love for literature. If only Wonder could commit herself to the writing life, they could be those rare literary soulmates who never fall prey to their demons. There is so much they're up against, but Joe has faith in Wonder. He will sacrifice his art for hers. And if he has to, he will kill her darlings for her. With her trademark satirical, biting wit, Caroline Kepnes explores why vulnerable people bring out the worst in others as Joe sets out to make this small, elite world a fairer place. And if a little crimson runs in the streets of Cambridge. Who can blame him? Love doesn't conquer all. Often, it needs a little push. Going Zero, a high-concept thriller from Oscar-nominated screenwriter Anthony McCartan. Erase yourself. The hunt has begun. Perfect for fans of I Am Pilgrim and The Circle. 2 hours to vanish. 10 people have been carefully selected to beta test a groundbreaking piece of spyware. Pioneered by tech vindicant Cy Baxter, Fusion can track anyone wherever they are on Earth. But does it work? One chance to escape. Each participant is given 2 hours to go zero, to go off-grid and disappear, and then 30 days to elude the highly sophisticated capture teams sent to find them. Any zero that beats Fusion will receive $3 million in cash. If Cy's system prevails, he wins a $90 billion contract with the CIA to develop Fusion and revolutionize surveillance forever. Zero alternatives. For contestant Caitlin Day, the stakes are far higher than money, and her reasons for entering the test more personal than Cy could have ever imagined. Caitlin needs to win to get what she wants, and Sai will stop at nothing to realize his ambitions. They have no choice but to finish the game, and when the timer hits 0, there will only be one winner. The mesmerizing story of the only female Argonaut, told by Jennifer Saint, the best-selling author of Electra and Ariadne. When a daughter is born to the king of Arcadia, she brings only disappointment. Left exposed on a mountainside, the defenseless infant Atalanta is left to the mercy of a passing mother bear and raised alongside the cubs under the protective eye of the goddess Artemis. Swearing that she will prove her worth alongside the famed heroes of Greece, Atalanta leaves her forest to join Jason's band of Argonauts. But can she carve out her own place in the legends in a world made for men? Killer twists. Heroes to believe in. Trust Baldaxi. Simply Lies is an intense thriller featuring Mickey Gibson, a former New Jersey detective, from the #1 best-selling author David Baldaxi. No Truth. Former Jersey City detective and single mother of 2, Mickey Gibson, now works for global investigation company, Pro-I, to track down assets of the wealthy who have tried to avoid their creditors. One day she gets a call from a colleague, Arlene Robinson, asking her to visit the home of a notorious arms dealer who has cheated some of Pro-I's clients in the past. Mickey arrives at the mansion to discover the body of a man hidden in a secret room. No limits. It turns out that nothing is as it seems. The arms dealer did not exist, and nobody at Pro-I knew of Arlene Robinson. Mickey had been tricked, and now the cops were involved. The body was that of Thomas Lancaster, who'd been in witness protection, having had links with the mob. No fear. Now begins a cat-and-mouse showdown between hardened ex-cop, Mickey, and a woman with sociopathic tendencies who has no name and a mysterious past. She intends to get what she wants, and people who get in her way will die. For Mickey to stop her, she must first discover her true identity and what damaged her all those years ago. And the truth behind why she selected Mickey to become her nemesis. A chilling Norfolk Broads crime thriller. A convicted psychopath with an early release, a couple found butchered on board their boat, and a 12-year-old boy, hiding in fear or already lying dead. Struggling with his new role as a detective chief inspector, John Tanner is warned of a convicted psychopath's early release. When a couple is found later that day, the man stabbed to death, the woman with her throat cut, is forced to assume the convict is responsible. But when the male victim turns out to be heir to a global pharmaceutical company, and his 12-year-old son is nowhere to be found, he has to start looking closer at the victim's family, and their sprawling stately ancestral home. Set within the mysterious beauty of the Norfolk Broads, this fast-paced British detective series is a dark, cozy Norfolk murder mystery with a slice of humor and a touch of romance, one that will have you guessing until the very end, when the last shocking twist is finally revealed. One of the world's favorite detectives returns. 6 million books read. A brand new mystery from the best-selling author. Set in the gorgeous Oxfordshire countryside. Former detective Hilary Green and her cold case team are handed an impossible case. 30 years ago, 2 days before Christmas, the much-loved Reverend Keith Coltrane was hit over the head and left to die inside his own church. The killer was never caught. This shocking crime took place in the pretty Oxfordshire village of Lower Barton. Everyone knows everyone else in this peaceful little community. The young Reverend was handsome and popular, especially with the ladies of the village. Who would have wanted to harm him? Even 30 years later, no one has a bad word to say about him, apart from his younger sister. Now, Hilary and her team of misfits are ready to find out the truth. They uncover old secrets, jealousies, and long-standing feuds in the village. Secrets someone will kill to keep hidden. Hilary is also concealing something, but she's finding it harder and harder to keep her own secret. It's up to Hillary to uncover the shocking truth in this coldest of cold cases, before old crimes turn to new murder. Because Paris is always a good idea. Years ago, Juliet left a little piece of her heart in Paris, and now, separated from her husband and with her children flying the nest, it's time to get it back. So she puts on her best red lipstick, books a cozy attic apartment near Notre Dame and takes the next train out of London. Arriving at the Gare du Nord, the memories come flooding back: bustling street cafes, cheap wine in candlelit bars and a handsome boy with glittering eyes. But Juliet has also been keeping a secret for over 2 decades, and she begins to realize it's impossible to move forwards without first looking back. Something tells her that the next 30 days might just change everything. Brought to you by Penguin. Breathe normally if something goes wrong. Scuba diving instructor Cass leads her students out for their first dive off the beautiful coast of Koh Sang, Thailand's world-famous party island. It's supposed to be a life-changing experience, but things quickly spiral out of control. Always dive with someone you trust. By the time she gets back to the shore, one of her students is dead, another critically injured, and she knows that her idyllic life is about to be smashed to pieces on the rocks. Don't panic if your oxygen is running out. Someone has discovered Cass's secret, and on an island as remote as this, accidents happen. Plenty of backpackers choose to stay here forever, but some never make it home alive.